afternoon and welcome to CEC Gurukul lecture. In continuation with the series on sociology of work, in today's lecture we are going to talk about dimension of work, that's emotional labor. Now, emotional labor has become very significant, and this is something that we observe whether we go to a restaurant or we go to say a marriage party, and even some of the private hospitals. On the gate you will be greeted with a smile. Now, those who are smiling are not doing it because they are happy or because they want to be share a smile with you. They are doing it as a part of their work. They are doing it as labor. So that is why the title called emotional labor. And this concept of emotional labor becomes very significant, especially when we see this entire move towards post-capitalist, market-oriented, materialistic life, where everything, even your kind of every smile that you give or every action that you make gets a penny, has a penny or has a worth, has a price. And that is why there is so much of concern about this term called emotional labor. So let us try to understand what is emotional labor, why is it significant to understand labor, and how it kind of influences the understanding of work in the contemporary society. So especially in industrial or say service sector oriented society, there is so much of interaction between client and customer, and the entire revenue or the profit of the company depends on the amount of customer satisfaction that one can receive. So this customer satisfaction has become very significant. So you need to make sure as a provider of a service that the customer is happy and content. And to do that, many of the time those who are in this work have to kind of falsify the emotion. They have to kind of fake emotions and therefore kind of ensure that the revenue is on increase. So let us try to understand the very important dimension of work, that is emotional labor. So we know that this term becomes very popular since it was first coined in the 80s, and this was coined in terms as a critique to capitalism and also in terms of kind of part of the Marxist theory, where there was a kind of an understanding that since it was becoming a service sector economy, and Marx's theory of alienation was more fitted into manufacturing, factory oriented production. So there was kind of an argument coming in that then alienation becomes irrelevant. So here there was another concept which comes in, which is very close to the concept of alienation. So what Marx would try to understand in terms of a factory production of a worker kind of getting estranged or separated from the work, emotional labor, we'll see through the course of the lecture, is kind of very similar to what is alienation. So and this is kind of experienced more or less at the middle level or even at a kind of more in terms of a service sector relation. So Marx's concept of alienation was the relation between the worker and the machine, and here it is the client or the customer that becomes more significant. So we know this is kind of a what you display, and this is also a kind of a part of the capitalist society where packaging and the external appearance kind of hires a larger price than what could be. So people are more concerned about the display. So displays is what is sold. Now, as human being, and since it's kind of providing a service, the human being is on display and there is a price tag attached to it. So the more you smile, the more happy you kind of pretend as a seller of a service, the more customer you will be able to attract. So this kind of implies that earlier it was only physical labor which was kind of materialized or commercialized, and if you were to use Karl Marx's term of commodity, now emotion becomes a commodity and it is kind of something which has an exchange value. So the more the emotions you express and certain kind of emotions you express, the higher return you will get in terms of profit and good customer experience. So we also kind of see these all these services that we use, whether it be about telephone service or say any kind of online services provider. At the end of your sale or purchase, you have a customer satisfaction form that you need to fill, and there you kind of give 3-star or 4-star or 5-star. So this customer when we give this ranking, it kind of entails that next time a next customer is going to kind of take use of that or going to purchase that, will look into the review of the previous customers. So the customer satisfaction or customer survey has become very significant. Now, why do we think it is relevant? And as I already said, that this is a kind of, we put into this framework where we kind of again put into the evolutionary theory from post-industrial to information society, and kind of going by the theorists saying that information society is more service sector oriented. So there is an increase in human customer services. So whether we talk about healthcare or any even in terms of say transports, restaurants, entertainment, everywhere there is a kind of a customer service which has become important. So this is kind of, it's a very growing industry. It's pervasive in the sense it's almost found in almost every sector and every service sector. What we require in this is that there is a face-to-face interaction between the client and the seller of the service. So this is also competitive. So the more the emotions a company is able to train their employees, and more it will be, so when we, when we are going to a hospital, say a private hospital, and maybe one is not well, but then the person on the gate will receive with a smile, and that smile kind of is only kind of being a competitive. So that exchange value of that smile is in terms of trying to look into the growth of that particular service sector. So organization, because it's also a matter of competition, it's a question of the overall revenue and profit. So there's a lot of emphasis done on training, on quality management, and there is kind of the quality has to be in terms of able to sell your product with a smile, able to say, and we'll go through the case study, we'll see that in many of the times, and often now telephonic customer service, which is 24/7 available to individual, we many a times see that it's kind of recorded, and that is recorded for the purpose of training. Now on the telephone, if the customer is kind of rude, arrogant, the person on the customer service desk has to be polite, has to ignore the abuse, or has to kind of take on that and still continue to be in a polite or a smiling kind of an attitude. So here we see another theory which we did in the last class, which was Kai Erikson's concept of alienation, which he discussed with reference to Karl Marx's concept of alienation in automated information technology sector. So according to Kai Erikson, we can kind of look into two importance of emotional labor. One, seen as the ways that employees attempt to elicit response from client and customer. Now, the more cordial you are with a customer, or you kind of put the customer into a very comfortable zone, the higher the chance that the customer will be able to purchase that service. So that is why there is a kind of emphasis on the emotion. Number two is in terms of management of the employer's own emotions. Now it's kind of a world where people are kind of undergoing lot of pain, lot of sufferings, but you cannot bring that pain and suffering into the realm of your work. So here we see a kind of contradiction where emotions should be private, it should be personal, has become public. Whereas a certain kind of emotions, that is your sorrow, your pain, your cry, are supposed to be privatized. You're not going to bring it into the public realm. And that's why we kind of say, go back to the understanding that emotion is a commodity. It is something which has an exchange value. So when we look into Hochschild, who's the kind of the scholar who gives us this concept, he says it's a form of estrangement or even alienation. So I started off by saying that the relevance of emotional labor is that it's very close to Marx's concept of alienation. Why? Because even here you are kind of even not the person who you are supposed to be. You can be kind of a very serious person, and you could be kind of not someone who often laughs, but you are into a workplace where you have to force yourself to smile. You have to kind of take on a fake personality, and that could be a kind of psychological effect which will kind of separate yourself from your own identity. So you are not supposed to feel the way you are. So for instance, because the demand is, so you might kind of have suffered a loss, personal loss, or you might have someone very close to who could have died. But then at the workplace, you're not supposed to cry, or you're not supposed to show your sorrow. You need to kind of follow the managerial prescribed code of conduct. And this is generally kind of, if we look into emotions, we have both kind of emotions, which could be negative like pain, sorrow, cry. But here the emotions that is relevant is in terms of the positive relevance, that you have to be happy, you have to be kind of smiling, you have to you have to kind of try to always take on positivity. You cannot get angry, you cannot get annoyed. So there is a lot of stress on positivity. So that is where we, the relevance is that at one level we can see that it can kind of create a happy environment, but then at a personal level it could kind of create a conflict. So when we look into Marx's theory of alienation, we see that it kind of brings it to the two dimension. So to recall, when we talk about Marx's concept of alienation, Marx says that alienation is from the product, from the process, from the labor that he is producing, as well as from the community and from self. So here we see when there is kind of two kind of alienation that can be understood. One is at the level of product. That is, when we look into the service as a product, then the person, it is not, say, if through your emotions or through your smiles or your good behavior, you have been able to meet the target which is set by the company, that goes into the profit of the company. The product does not belong to the individual. And the process is alienating it in itself, because there will be a lot of supervision, there will be a lot of monitoring of the activity that an individual is doing. So when we look into alienation, we see that the display of emotional labor, workers' loss of control over and ownership of the labor product. And the second is the removal of the control over, again, the entire process of production. Now we've talked about the relevance, we've talked about why it is important to study emotional labor, how it has become an integral part of workplace norm. So let us kind of look into the origin of the concept. And as we said that it started out in the 80s. So the exact time was 1983, where sociologist Arlie Hochschild kind of coined this term, and the term was coined in the book which was referred as the managed heart. So if we kind of look into this managed heart, the title itself will tell us that it is kind of reflecting on both in terms of the public, that is the manager, and it's also reflecting on the heart, which is something which is kind of personal, something which belongs to an individual. So what is emotional labor? If we go by the definition given by Hochschild, it refers to the management of feeling to create a publicly observable facial and bodily display. So there is kind of and we all have experienced this, say you have this well dressed and we will see there is a gender dimension as well, well dressed female with a smile on her face kind of greeting you. So that is kind of not an individual behavior, but an behavior which is acquired through training for the purpose of selling a commodity. So this Hochschild basically wanted to understand how capitalism is kind of estranging individual from their own self, and that is why the focus here is an ethnographic study which will kind of look into the flight attendant. This is one of the sector where the emotional labor would be kind of quite observable, and bill collectors. So, this is basically found in most of the industries where there is an interaction between the customer and the client, but these are some of the flight attendant and bill collectors are the case studies. And here they point out that people have been trained to control the emotions and control the emotions in personal and work life. So, where you kind of it is kind of very monotonous regulated lifestyle which you have to take. So, the definition was kind of given in 1983 in the work The Managed Heart, and here Hochschild defines it as management of feeling to create a publicly observable facial and bodily display. So, emotional labor or emotion work. So, these are two things which we will differentiate, but these are kind of requirement of job that employees display required emotion towards customer or other. And the two industry that we said that the emotional labor is quite predominant is the airline industry, where we see the flight attendant. It's also found the healthcare service where doctors, nurses, waiting staff, and it could be found in say television actors, the number of field where this display could be found. Now, when we are trying to understand the emotional labor from a sociological perspective, we might kind of go into the inner understanding of it, and here we see that it has three components. Number one, expression of feeling as part of paid work. So, as I already said in the beginning, emotion is a commodity. It's kind of displayed in order to kind of extract an exchange value, that is the wage, and it only serves the interest of the employer, that is it kind of adds to the surplus value. So, the more the positive emotion is displayed, the higher the revenue or the profit margin of the service provider. And this is always taken in interaction. It is kind of not something which is say in terms of online shopping. If we are kind of buying something on the online, this will not have an interaction, face to face interaction between the customer and the seller. So, that will not involve emotional labor. It's very important that there is a face to face interaction in the workplace dealing with customers, clients. And number three, which is the most important thing, and this will help us to understand it as part of alienation, is managerial supervision. So, that how you smile, how you walk, how you talk is all a part of the management. It's going to train you how to do it. And if we kind of look around, we see there are a lot of courses going on for youngsters in terms of personality, in terms of English speaking, in terms of how you build on your communication skills, how you would kind of become. So, these are all kind of oriented towards customer service employment. Now, when we look into the emotional labor, we see there are certain sectors which the kind of sociologists have pointed out, where the display of emotional labor is the highest, and that is, as I already said, areas which will require face to face interaction with the public, say if kind of selling tickets or kind of any kind of interaction, and it requires workers to produce an emotional state in another person. This is important, that it's not one's emotions that is being said, that emotion has to be kind of targeted towards creating the similar response in the client. Only then will the exchange take place. So, many a time we have experienced this, that the person will be very polite, will speak very with very lovely words to ensure that we also kind of go into that state where we go into that emotion, and by then we purchase that product. So, all the employers are undergoing through training and supervision to regulate performance. Now, how do we know, this is kind of a very complicated area where how do we know that this is an emotional labor which is a part of the exchange process, or it is a part of your individual, because emotions is something which every human beings can have. So, how do we differentiate between a worker or an employer's display of emotion and an individual? This we can do if we kind of keep in mind some of the characteristics, and this is firstly that personal contact, external or within the organization, facing either face to face or voice to voice client contact. Emotional labor also requires a worker to produce an emotional state in another person, while at the same time managing one's own emotions. So, in an interaction between the service provider or the person who is selling the product and the customer, maybe the customer gets annoyed, starts shouting or cleaning, but then the emotional labor will be identified if the person who is on the other side continues to be soft, does not get annoyed or aggravated, and kind of takes on that abuse, takes on that rudeness, and after some time maybe there is a kind of a change in the customer's behavior. So, employers have to follow certain rules, and that is why we know it is kind of different from what we would do in a personal or private sphere. Emotions are not controlled, emotions are not kind of regulated, but when we look it into the workplace or emotional labor, it is regulated. You have to kind of not become very close to the customer. You can't kind of establish a very strong bond that there can be a question of giving the selling the product at a low price or giving it at free. So, there is a boundary line. So, you have to kind of display your emotions only as much as is required per the training received. So, this directs to the alignment of with the call center environment due to the respective characteristics. So, the call center is again another area where we will see a lot of display of emotional labor, because there is a kind of receiving calls, and say the voice to voice interaction has to be kind of followed in terms of the emotional labor as per the customer satisfaction. Now, we know that emotion is something which would have been part of industrial society and even pre-industrial society. So, why though we need to kind of focus on this and make it so significant to understand it from a sociological perspective, and that is that we say post 80s 90s we started seeing a kind of a transformation, and one of the transformation, and this has been discussed in the previous lecture, was a decline in manufacturing. So, manufacturing was the man machine relation, and now growth of service sector, there is more of man and man relations. So, customer client relations have increased over the 80s and 90s, and this could also be as a result of the rise of the information society or the technology playing a dominant role. Then we also have another factor for the increase is female employment. Now, female employment here, when we look into it, we could look into it in terms of the gender stereotype. That's and there could be a kind of a gender feminist understanding of it, where women's body, women's smile are considered to be kind of more productive than the counterpart. So, even the example that we can give is, say we have this international trade fair where we have all these products on display, and there we see young girls kind of displaying, dancing or showcasing in order to say, kind of attract customer for a say a four-wheeler or any other product. So, the female employment in these sectors where human interaction is there has increased, and if we can, that is why there is kind of focused more in terms of training, selection. There is a lot of supervision and evaluation which has to be a part of. So, this all this monitoring, supervision, evaluation has become integral to the workplace norm. Every sector that we go, we have this kind of mechanism which is there for the employers to follow. Now, we need to differentiate between emotion work and emotional work. Now, emotion work or emotional work means we are going to manage our feeling for specific profession. So, for instance, a teacher cannot be very rude to a child. So, she needs to kind of maintain her. If by nature she is kind of very rude or she is arrogant, she cannot show that, while because it will have a negative effect on the child. But this is not for an exchange value. It is only kind of part of the profession that she has to do. So, there are a lot of emotional work that we do in our private life. There could be n number of examples, but it is kind of only external expression of personal goals, say with friends, family, acquaintance, and so emotional work is all a part of the social life. Everywhere we see with the kind of expressing our emotion. But what we need to keep in mind that there is no exchange of value. We are not doing it because we are going to get back a wage or particular reward for it. And in that sense, emotion work has a use value, whereas emotional work has exchange value. So, that is the most important difference that we need to keep in mind. Emotional work is not compensated, emotional labor is compensated. So, the more kind of difference we kind of do, it could be that emotion work is in the private sphere within family, friends, emotional labor is public in a customer client relations. So, we look into in terms of the emotional labor, kind of two kinds of emotional labor. One is surface acting and the other is deep acting. Surface acting is when you kind of fake, your emotion, and Hochschild says the body, not the soul, is the main tool of trade. So, it is the body, your display of your language, your display of your behavior becomes a commodity. So, you can do it externally, whereas deep acting is when you kind of internalize it and bring about a change in your behavior. So, both kind of surface acting and deep acting kind of is part of the emotional labor, where there is a lot of stress on the individual to transform one behavior in order to kind of sell the emotions as commodity in the marketplace and kind of do an exchange of the emotion with a value, and again it is kind of a surplus profit for the employers, and therefore, it is kind of leading to alienation. So, with this we have a kind of a good understanding of what is emotional labor, how it is significant in the workplace in contemporary society, and therefore, we need to keep a kind of read something. We need to read Hochschild, the Managed Heart will give us more idea about the concept of emotional labor. With this, I come to an end of the lecture. Thank you.